In the last video, we set up Prometheus to extract information from our controllers and the brokers. What we didn't do, however, is to finalize on the rest of the architecture. We still have a couple of ways to go, but right now, our workers, our controllers and the brokers for the Kafka Kafka Kraft mode is working just fine. So the rest is just to work with Grafana and create a dashboard for that. So we're going to be having a specialized dashboard that is going to be visualizing all the information that is being scraped with Prometheus. To do that, it's not so simple or straightforward. What we have right now is to have like a dashboard that is connected to a data source. The data source is going to be the input data that is coming into Prometheus. This is going to make sense by the time I show you, but it's going to be like the input from Prometheus is serving as a data source into the dashboard, just like any other dashboard you'll be creating anyways. You're going to have an input data source where the data is feeding from and visualizing it on the dashboard. So let's do that and see what that looks like. Okay, so right now we have a schema registry, which is left. We have a schema. So by the way, I just remembered. So if you want to include the schema registry, you follow the same process. Have an agent that you're going to be exporting data in there, then write something for the schema registry in the monitoring for Prometheus as well. So here you need to have something for schema registry or whatever the system is that you're going to be exporting from. Okay, and the logs, of course, if you extract the logs, you can see the logs here for the Kafka log, the Kafka server and stuff like that. You see how that look like, which is good. So I'm not really particular about that. I just want to show you what that look like. Good. So the console, of course, however, is still working. Everything is working as expected on a dashboard, and you can visualize that also, of course, in localhost 8080. And yeah, it's working as expected. Yeah, good. So that's it. We don't have anything in the topic yet, so let's set up our Grafana dashboard. So to do that, we just need to scroll down to the bottom. Right now we have our monitoring. Prometheus and alert manager is working just fine, so we need to get in our Grafana. So Grafana is going to be here. So in our Grafana, we're going to have the Grafana image, which is Grafana latest, and the container name is Grafana. The port we're going to be listening on for Grafana is port 3000, and the volume in this case is Grafana data. So by default, because we didn't have any other volumes created here, this is going to be using the in-memory volume. So we already mapped these volumes that are here. We already mapped them here, so there's no need to have them anymore. I'm talking about this. So these volumes that we have here, if you look at these volumes, you already have them. Broker data 3, something like that is here. So we don't need all of this anymore. So but for Grafana, we don't have anything like that. So if you want to map the volume to the list of volumes that we have here as well, you can do that. So I mean, it's okay. Anyhow you prefer, you want it. I'm just gonna put it here. So I have my volume as Grafana. So the same way I did for Prometheus, I'm going to do the same for Grafana. So put this Grafana inside this monitoring folder and provision the dashboard and the configuration. So this dashboard, by the way, you can provision all the dashboards through configurations, and that's it. Or you prefer, you can go to the UI and provision those dashboards from there. So usually with Grafana, you can copy paste the JSON object for the dashboard or export it once you're fine with it. Okay, so what happens is we start with the provisioning. Maybe the dashboard is not necessary for now. I'm just going to be sticking to provisioning for now, and then if you prefer, you can add the dashboards much later. All right, the volume is taken care of, so let's create inside monitoring, not the volume. Inside monitoring, we're going to be creating a Grafana folder. So make directory, monitoring, and Grafana. Yeah, I'll call this provisioning as well. This is not going to work directly, so you need to add -p to this. Okay, so So Grafana provisioning is fine. So inside the provisioning, we need to now have our Grafana provisioning method, or the configuration. So I'm just going to paste the data source here. So for provisioning the data source, we're going to paste this here, and it's going to be like that. I'm just going to copy it again. Yeah. So inside provisioning, I have data source, and the data source is Prometheus data source. So in this case, I'm calling it DS Prometheus, or you can call it Prometheus DS, whatever you call it, or whatever name you prefer. So in this case, I'm just like data source Prometheus, and the access is proxy, because it's going to be like HTTP proxy, or HTTPS if you prefer. And then it's going to be the type of Prometheus, and the URL is this. Don't forget, Prometheus is our container name, and the port that we're exposing Prometheus on is 9090, so we can use that as the default. Good. So that's the data source, as simple as that. So if you want to provision the dashboard as well, you need to create a folder and call it dashboard. Yeah, so dashboards. So in this dashboard is where you now put all the dashboards that you want to provision. So if you have a JSON object and stuff like that, you can put all of that inside, maybe here, or separately in a separate folder. But that's not what we're going to be doing. I'm just going to be copy pasting it, so not going end to end fully Grafana. Okay. So yeah, so going back here, the provisioning should be done. So we have our data source in there automatically. We don't have any dashboard, so that will be fine. That's not a problem at all. But if you have any dashboard that you want to provision alongside this, you can include it as well. So for some reason, so aside from provisioning, so if you have dashboard as well, your dashboard could now be here. So maybe the JSON object can be here, and the configuration will be here. Make sense? Just like we have the configuration for data source here, you can have the configuration for the dashboard here, so that points to the list of JSONs that you have. I hope that makes sense, but that's fine if it doesn't. So the data source is fine. Okay, so right now we just do docker compose up in detached mode, and boom, so our Grafana should be up, and we should be able to see what's going on there. So let's check Grafana. So Grafana is here, and we can see it on port 3000. So if I go to localhost port 3000, yeah, we have a Grafana. So the reason why this is not showing me is because it has it in memory that I haven't signed out. Yeah, so by default, if this is your first time, you're going to see something like this, and the username and password is admin by default. So because I logged in before, for some reason it should have logged me out, but it didn't, so I'm stuck with that. So in this case, the username and password, I know why. If I clear my volume, in fact I should do that. So what I'm gonna do, docker compose down, I need to show you how to do that, so it's important. So I'm just going to clear all of this. If I clear all of these volumes, yeah, because some of the containers are still active. Yeah, still stopping the controllers. Just a few seconds and that's done. So I go to volumes and I delete all of this. Yeah. So I don't have anything in memory that is waiting or whatever. So if I start everything up now, we should be fine. Okay. All right. So if I go to Grafana now, we should be okay, and it should ask me for username and password. It's still starting up, I believe. Let's check the logs. Yeah, it should be ready to rock and roll, and Grafana is ready. Right now, this is what you should see by the time you start up Grafana. And yeah, the console is still not done. Yeah, so the username and password, like I said, is admin and admin. Yeah, admin. So if you log in, it's going to prompt you to change your password. So in my case, I'm just going to change my password and submit. That's it. You are into the Grafana dashboard. Yeah, just in case you skip that bit in the first place. Yeah. So with this, you should by default have the data source already provisioned alongside your Grafana instance. So if you go into the connection section and you go into data source, you see we have DS Prometheus, and by default, like we mentioned, this is the default guy, the default data source that is there. So as it is right now, you can preview this. Everything is working fine, so you can see what we have on the dashboard. We don't have any dashboard that is linked to this at all. So if you want to have a Grafana metrics dashboard that keep track of Grafana itself, you can create it here, but I don't need that. And if you want to listen to Grafana statistics, you can also import it here. So if you import Prometheus 2.0 start, let's do that for sample sake. Yeah, so inside here you have, in the dashboard section, you have Prometheus stats, which is all of this information. We don't have so much information right now because not so much has been scripted so far. So but what we can do is put some data inside our main inside our Kafka. So if you do that, some of this information will start changing as Grafana picks up. Maybe I reduce the refresh timeout a little bit. Yeah, so you can zoom out and you can see the script duration for the Kafka brokers and controllers. I'm just going to leave it at that. Some of this information will start coming up with time, but for now nothing is coming up, so it's okay. And the same thing happens if you want to import the second dashboard, which is the Prometheus stats. Okay, the same way, you go in here and you see Prometheus 2.0 is the one that we have right now. You have Prometheus stats, so you see this. So nothing is here at the moment as well. So yeah, but you can of course fine tune this and make things better. But in our case, we are not using this, so we have a dashboard that is going to be specific to our Kafka controllers and brokers that we want to monitor. Yeah, so I'm going to create a new dashboard by importing it. So I already have a JSON that I've already developed. I saw the sample somewhere online, but I'm not sure exactly where the URL is. So if I find it after this video, I'm gonna link this in the description. But the JSON object for that So what I'm going to do is copy paste the JSON in here. I'm going to be leaving this as part of the artifact of this video as well. So if you have maybe you have a published URL for your dashboard, you can do that here. Just get the URL ID or get the ID, you're good to go. So if you click on the load, you have Kafka metrics dashboard, which is the dashboard that I created, and it's going to be going into this dashboard. The UID is going to be this. Yeah, I'm going to be importing this, and right now you see the number of brokers that we have online, the online partitions, the minimum under minimum ISR partitions, the broker network throughput, and if you have any offline partitions, it's going to be here on clean leader election rate and stuff like that. So these are the kind of information that you put on your dashboard. And right now you see the throughput that you can measure as data comes in. The message in per broker. You see the broker 3 is having more information than the rest, and the list here is broker 1. Maybe it's because it's the leader or something. Yeah, but that's fine. Then time spent in GC, the log size per broker, you see that as well. Yeah, but that's the dashboard for Grafana. So you can test this out by obviously running the production again. So if you run the production again, right now this should start changing. So if I change this to 5 seconds, for example, so it's going to be refreshing every 5 seconds. So you can see we have more data coming in as data is coming in into the Kafka controllers and brokers. Yeah. So if you zoom out a little bit, you see you have some data here. Yeah. Let's see anymore. Yeah, good. So as data is coming in, you see the graph refreshing and changing, so we can see what have a sense of what that look like. Okay. So the highest we've seen so far is for bytes in is about 49.70 kilobyte. So if you do the production that we did earlier with Apache Flink, so if I go into my IntelliJ IDEA, yeah, for my transaction producer, if I run the transaction producer now, we should see something really extraordinary in terms of production. And if you check this out again, it's going to change. So let's see, in the next 5 seconds it refreshes, and you can see the production has changed from, let's say, 50 seconds that we had before, 50 kilobytes rather, to 177 kilobytes per second. Yeah, I'm just going to stop that, so just so you see what that difference look like. And we have 1.1 megabyte per second right now, and it's just going to keep going as the production gather momentum into the production proper. You see that it keeps increasing. Okay, but right now it's fine. So we've been able to like produce 1.1 megabyte per second, and the least replicated data here is here. The maximum record per broker is 2,000 whatever. As this is the bytes in, bytes out. Yeah, and you can check your dashboard to see if the data is coming in. Something is wrong with my broker console rather, so I'm just going to start that again. So if you want your console to always be online, you can always put the restart on let's stop. So we have 3 million records right now within like a few seconds. And yeah, so you get the point. So that's how you create your Grafana dashboard and how you connect everything to it. So you can also explore some of this information like alerting and stuff like that. So let's say for some reason you want your production should be 1 megabyte per second through as a throughput, and something for some reason is producing 53 kilobyte per second. You can set up an alert in this case and create an alert rule in here. But we're not going to be, that's outside of the scope of this video, so just leave it as it is, and you can always adjust that if you prefer. Yeah, so that's it for Grafana. That's how you set it up, and that is just close this. Yeah, so for Grafana is up and running and we are good to go. So the next thing will now be, if you look at the architecture right now, we've satisfied the Prometheus and the Grafana bit. The next one to satisfy now is the ELK stack. So 2 ways you can do this. Number one, to index the data that is coming into Spark, you can connect your Spark directly into Elasticsearch. By that I mean, if you go into the jobs in the Spark processor, when you are writing the data, instead of just aggregating it directly here, yeah, and writing to Kafka, instead of doing this, you can actually write directly and point it to Elasticsearch. You can check previous videos for how to connect your Kafka Spark to Elasticsearch and see how you can produce data into and index data, not produce, index data into Elasticsearch directly. Yeah, and you'll be good to go. The other bit is you can extract and ship these logs that are being produced across different brokers and index them on Elasticsearch. You might not really be considering the controllers, maybe not, because this is just metadata anyways, so that keeps track of the brokers that is being controlled. Yeah, but in this case, the brokers that is getting the data in themselves and holding them, you want to keep those logs. And interestingly, for some of these logs, maybe not, it may not make much sense really, but with something like this, you can parse this and visualize what you have here on the dashboard. That can be done easily with Elasticsearch. So let's get into the Elasticsearch bit and see how that works.